Why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit in order to be comfortable?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and it's another episode south of the border, late night with the gringo, whatever time zone you're in. But it has been an interesting day in the news, and we owe it all to President Trump because love him, hate him. It's the most entertaining presidency I've seen in my lifetime since Bill Clinton. Yes, he had a press conference, and whenever he has a press conference, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what he's going to say. This was a doozy, folks. This is a doozy. We're going to watch it through because it started out nice. It did. It started out very polite and congenial. This particular press conference, he is hosting the president of South Africa in the Oval Office. And as the thumbnail said, shit got real quick. And I guess welcome back to the no F's given presidency, because I've never seen things like this in the Oval Office ever in my life. And I've been watching politics for almost 50 years. So it was amazing. It was at times uncomfortable. At times you're thinking to myself, oh my God. I think this, I thought the Zelensky Oval Office blow up was bad. This one just announced to every leader in the world, you be prepared. If you're coming to the Oval Office, this isn't tea and crumpets time. If there's an issue he wants to talk about and he believes in something, he believes in it, and you're going to have to defend yourself, and you're going to have to come up with a reason why certain things are happening or not happening. Again, amazing. It was amazing. We're going to get into it. We've got the whole video up at the White House website. Of course, they're really good. Again, the most transparent presidency in the world in history. You don't see things like that. I've never seen diplomacy like this in front of a camera. Normally, this type of stuff happens behind a camera. They're all in a little meeting room. Whatever happens, it's sort of like Vegas. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Whatever happens in the meeting room stays in the meeting room. And then they all come out and we're like, yeah, we're good. And you kind of get like the whitewashed version of what went on and stuff. So this one, the South African president was not prepared for President Trump. I don't think anybody's prepared for President Trump. I just don't. It's just, again, whether you like what he's saying or what he's believing, the transparency to watch this is amazing. So I'm going to have my headphones on, and hopefully the volume is good. We're gonna get to this here. Let me see here. Let me get to this here. Boom. Here we go. All right. We're going to turn up the volume a little bit here. And I'm not going to mute myself. I'm just going to have the headphones on. And if I have something to say, I'll just chime in as people are talking. A lot. I mean, he sparred with the press. He sparred with the South African president. Elon's there, who's the South African citizen. And this is amazing. This was literally amazing to watch. And it lasted an hour and 14 minutes. But like I said, it starts out nice. And then it turns not nice. All right, let's see here. Hopefully this is all good to go. It will begin shortly. Yeah, it'll be. There we go. I feel bad for him. I feel bad. Yep, you have no idea where you're sitting, buddy. You're sitting next to President Trump. You're about to get it. You're going to get it in a few. You're going to think, this is nice. Look at this, nice pictures, and everybody's good.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Here we go.
It's a great honor to be with the President of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and he is a man who is certainly in some circles really respected, other circles a little bit less respected, like all of us, in all fairness. Like all
We
of us.
all like that.
We also have a few of my friends. Ernie Els, a great golfer. He's a truly great golfer. Retief Goosen, who's an other really, we call him really a great golfer too, Ernie, right? You two guys are fantastic. And we could add Gary to the group, Gary Player. What a group of golfers South Africa's had.
He tried. He brought golfers. Trump loves golf. He's like, hey, here's some golfers. Treat me nice.
Unbelievable.
The water set.
Gary's Gary. And David Frost, also another one that I
Yes.
know is such a great one. Was he as good a putter as they say?
This is the nice part. You got to wait about, he tries to be nice. Tries to be nice.
And golf is still doing great in South Africa, and they have young players I hear coming up that are going to be very good. But it's an honor to have you here, and my friend, it's an honor to have you, one of the greatest businessmen in South Africa and long beyond. Thank you for being here. It's very, very great honor. Appreciate it. So we're going to be discussing certain things. As you know, we have the G20
Yep, the G20's coming up.
going to South Africa. When is that going to be?
In November.
In November.
Thereafter, I hand over to you. And
Yes, we have it next.
you originated the G20, so I'll hand over the baton to you,
That's right.
and then you lead the
That's
G20
right. We're
in the
going to have
world.
it.
Yeah.
We're going to have it the following
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing many things, and some of the things you've been reading about in the papers
Yes.
and the media. And I would say that, look, the president is a truly respected man in many, many circles, and in some circles he's considered a little controversial.
That's
But,
twice
we're
he
gonna
said
be
that.
discussing, some of the things that are taking place in South Africa and see if we can help. And we want to help. And we've had a long relationship with South Africa. I have, because indirectly I have so many friends that live there. I have a lot of friends. I mean, these are famous guys, but I have a lot of friends
Elon.
that live there that are tremendous people.
From South Africa.
And we'll be discussing
And Elon's in the room.
a nice conversation, and I really appreciate that you guys came along. It really helps us in our thought process. But it is a great honor to have you, and I appreciate you called. He called. I don't know where he got my number, but I picked up. And he said, "I want to come over and see you." And, that was my honor.
That was his
Thank you
first
very much.
mistake. That was his first mistake.
Well, thank you very much for welcoming us to this reformed White House. I've been here before, and it looks really fantastic. I must congratulate you.
Thank you.
But I also thank you for allowing our delegation. This is a very mixed delegation that you've got. We've got people from government, my ministers. I've got someone from the trade union movement who we really collaborate with, and from business as well, and our sporting legends. When I spoke to you, you said, yes, come along and bring Gary Player, bring any else, and Retief Goosen. I brought the two of them. Gary
what
Player,
happened to Gary?
I spoke to him, and he said, look, I'm getting rather on in my years, but wishes us luck in this discussion with you. So it's a real joy, and I'd also like to thank you for allowing your people to start discussions with us at the trade level.
Very, very congenial, very political, very nice. Reset the relationship.
South Africa. We are long-standing partners in many, many ways. We've collaborated in many fields, in space issues, in energy, and in trade, and we therefore need to reset that, particularly in the light of some of the announcements that you made on trade and investment. So we want to advance more trade between the two of us, two countries, and our people now have been empowered by yourself and by myself to start engaging.
He's doing what he should do, which is,
That engagement.
be nice to Trump, right? He's like, all right, I'm going to give him a lot of platitudes and thank yous, and
How we promote further
he's a great guy.
in
And
both countries. We've got about 22 companies from South Africa that have invested in the US. That's creating a number of jobs. And similarly, you've got almost 600 companies that have invested in South Africa, and some of them have been in South Africa for more than 100 years.
That's true.
So our links are really long.
President Trump looks like a lion waiting to pounce. He's just waiting.
Calibrate those relations between our two countries, and discuss a whole range of issues, geopolitical, the work that you're doing to bring peace around the world, in Ukraine and in the Middle East. So we value that, and we are also a great contributor to peace processes that are going on around the world. And of course, we want to discuss how we can support each other. You are a much bigger economy than we are. We're just a tiny economy, but we rely on each other on a number of issues. We've got critical minerals that you want.
He's saying all the right things,
your own economy and reindustrialize.
but he's just not.
So we have that
He's not prepared for what's coming.
rare earth minerals. So all that combination of opportunity and the products that we buy from you, as well as what we sell to you, I believe makes up a really good and powerful relationship, which we need to strengthen.
Kumbaya, everybody. You know?
That's really what has brought us here, and we are really privileged to have, great South Africans in the mix. As you said, you'd like to see them as well. And I brought you a really fantastic golf.
Brought him a gift.
Weighs 14 kilograms. And it showcases the golf courses in our country. Johan Rupert wrote preface, so did Annie.
He's hitting all the right things. Golf. Thank yous. You're a great president. Peacemaker. He's just, just hitting all the right buttons.
Golf, you said I should start practicing. And I've started practicing, President, so I'm ready. But let me end just the introductory remarks by thanking you. You may not recall that 5 years ago I spoke to you during the COVID period. Right. And it was at a time when the whole world was going through a really cathartic moment.
I remember this. I remember this.
Assistance, and you were able to assist us with
respirators. We sent them respirators. We sent the whole world respirators.
Respirators. Respirators, and you kept to your word, and you delivered respirators to us. We didn't have as many in our country. And
you didn't fall for it. No. This is amazing. What you're going to see is amazing. Never seen it in the Oval Office. Never. You got to. The press is going to ask a bunch of questions, but then it's going to go right to the presentation. Never seen it before in the Oval Office.
We needed help from around the world, and you were there to provide that. So thank you very much.
I remember the call.
Yeah,
we sent 150 respirators. We became the respirator king. We started making them. Nobody had them. We had very few of them.
That's right.
But they were very helpful. But we sent 150, and I appreciated the letter you wrote me. That's right.
Yeah, pants on fire.
It really touched my heart.
This is the no F's given presidency. That's what I've determined now from this press conference. That's all it is. It's the no F's given. Here we go.
Welcome white Afrikaner refugees here. Can you explain to Americans why it's appropriate to welcome white Afrikaners here when other refugees like Afghans, Venezuelans, Haitians have all had their protective status revoked?
Well, this is a group, NBC, that is truly fake news. They ask a lot of questions in a very pointed way. They're not questions, they're statements. We've had tremendous complaints about Africa, about other countries too, from people. They say there's a lot of bad things going on in Africa, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. When you say we don't take others, all you have to do is take a look at the southern border. We let 21 million people come through our border, totally unchecked, totally unchecked.
It's not wrong.
From all over the world. In many cases, they're criminals. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions. They come from street gangs. They're drug dealers. So don't say that we didn't take them. We're trying to get them out as fast as we can. And we're doing record business on that. And we just won a big case where we're allowed to send back hundreds of criminals to Venezuela. Just won that today in the Supreme Court.
Yep, they won that in the Supreme Court.
But we do have a lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa, and that's really the purpose of the meeting. And
yeah, it was. I mean, he wanted out of that office.
They're being persecuted, and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. And we had a lot of people. I must tell you, Mr. President, we have had a tremendous number of people, especially since they've seen this. Generally, they're white farmers,
Yeah.
and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see. But I hope we can have an explanation of that, because I know you don't want that.
Can we have an explanation?
And, it's a kind of a different meeting. Normally we have meetings, we talk about trade, and we'll be talking about trade another day.
It's going to be a different kind of meeting.
Subject that comes up, yeah. Yes, please. Brian?
Thank you very much. I'd like to get your thoughts on Letitia James. Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was
Elon smiling.
in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false information we had on him.
Well, I don't know what it is currently, but Letitia James, who's the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know that it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything.
Things you and I would go to jail for.
Which she had to have a husband, or so she chose her father, and she put it down. And she.
If you and I lied on a mortgage document, we'd get fined money, but we'd probably go to jail.
In Virginia, she's the
So.
New York State Attorney General, and she did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number.
She's the Attorney General of the state of New York. She should know how to fill out a mortgage document.
The government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it. But I appreciate the question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Mr. President,
That's a little loud.
That is no genocide.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So May 25th will be the celebration of Africa Day, which pretty much a lot of celebration will be taking place around the world, including here in the United States. What is your message to the entire African continent, African people, in this important occasion?
Well, I want to see peace, and I want to see happiness. I want to see health, and you have incredible land. It's tremendous.
Let me there is something I do want to say here. As far as Africa is concerned, the last time I saw a president do anything significant for the continent of Africa, besides just pay it tribute or go there for a visit or whatnot, was George W. Bush, where he had a ton of money sent over there for AIDS, right? They loved George W. Bush in Africa because he really looked at that whole continent and said, hey, let's help you out with the United States and whatnot. Ever since then, you had Obama went there for a few trips, no meaningful trade agreements or anything like that. You had genocides going on. We didn't get involved, right? We kind of stayed on the side, right? And so, and in the first Trump presidency, he was a little hampered with what was going on. Biden went there for a couple of trips. Nothing meaningful came out of it. So it's nice to see a president engaged in Africa, the continent of Africa, because U.S. presidents normally ignore the continent of Africa, right? They usually ignore it. And there's a lot of shit going on down there right now as far as wars and things like that. And if President Trump wants to try to hopefully get some of that alleviated, awesome, right? That's what U.S. leadership does, right? They look at a problem around the world and they say, hey, how can we help? And so, again, it's nice to see a U.S. president engaging in this way with the continent of Africa.
There's value. A lot of countries don't have that value in the land, the value you have. We have a situation, I think you probably heard about it. We've done, through some very talented people, helped settle a war that's been raging for years. Rwanda and Congo. And I think we've done it. Believe it or not, I think we've done it. And
that's a big deal.
Just say a few words about that, my friend.
Yes. A couple of weeks ago, the two parties signed a declaration of principles in which they've agreed on the way forward. And they have both submitted.
And that was genocide going on. Genocide.
And we have put together one that incorporates both of their suggestions, and we've given it to them. So we're in the process of finalizing this.
Looking good, right?
Looking very good.
We have to thank you for even those efforts, because the African continent, particularly SADC, our Southern African Development Community, has for years been seeking to foster peace in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So all efforts, including those from outside the continent and inside the continent, are really worthwhile. We are removing our troops from there so that peace can then prevail in that whole area. And we hope that with the support of the international community, we will really have peace in that area. It's so vital, it's so important for the whole region.
Well, we sent our people there, and I think we did a very good job, as headed by my friend, and that was great. That was great. I mean, I'm just hearing phenomenal reports because all I'm hearing is death, and they're chopping heads off, and it's horrible over there. And it was really brave of you to go there, and I really appreciate it. And it looks like that. It looks like we have something very, very substantial. We also talked about trade with them in terms of rare earth. And really more for the
Absolutely joking. This was you got amped up after this. I mean, this is.
India. We settled that whole thing, and I think I settled it through trade. We're doing a big deal with India. We're doing a big deal with Pakistan.
By the way, I love.
And what are you guys doing? You know, they
Hold on.
had to be the last one to shoot, but the shooting was getting worse and worse, bigger and bigger, deeper and deeper into the countries, and we spoke to them. And I think we, you know, I hate to say we got it settled, and then 2 days later, something happens, and they say it's Trump's fault.
I love JD Vance. Just watching JD Vance too as well. It's just it's
really good
just funny his reactions.
And India is my friend Modi, and he's a
Mutual friend?
Yeah, he's a great guy, and I called them both, and we just did something good. We're trying to settle Russia, Ukraine.
There's a lot of wars, and he's involved in a lot of wars here.
The day before yesterday, I think we made a lot of progress, but
And
it's a bloodbath. 5,000 people are being killed a week. 5,000 soldiers a week, not including people in cities and towns that are also.
They're bombing civilians in Ukraine.
So we're trying to help.
It's what is happening.
It doesn't affect us. It's not our people. It's not our soldiers. It's not our. It's Ukraine and it's Russia. But if we can save 5,000 souls, we'll do it. You know, we're pretty good at it. But that's a bad situation. That is a really bad situation.
Well, you'd recall when President Zelensky was coming to South Africa, that's when I spoke to you.
That's right.
We both agreed that we need to push the peace message so that there can really be peace.
He's trying to be like, I'm just like you, Trump. You're not like him.
Conflict for quite a while. Through my Minister of State Security here, we've been dealing with them, the exchange of children who were taken away, going through names and addresses and all that. So we've been invested in that whole process as well. And the moves that you are making are fully supported by us because we would like to see the end of that war.
It's true. I called Zelensky, and they said, he's in South Africa. I said, what the hell is he doing in South Africa?
He's talking to us.
We got this thing. I said, that's a strange one. I said, what are you doing in South Africa?
Yes.
That's a strange one.
He's trying to make peace. We're
He's doing
taking
something.
him. You know, we were lucky because we had the great Nelson Mandela who taught us how to create peace.
He'll keep invoking the name Nelson Mandela, which
Lessons to
this guy's no Nelson Mandela.
And I
But he's, you know.
mentioned to him that this is how Nelson Mandela taught us that when you want to have a peace in a country, do it on an unconditional basis and sit down and talk. And that's precisely what I'm sure he's going to heed.
Well, we're going to see what happens with that one. It's there's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
There's a lot of death. It's a bloodbath. It's a
It is.
bloodbath.
It is.
I get
Unfortunately.
I get the satellite pictures of that field, of that killing field. You never saw anything like it in your life. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing that it goes on, but I think we've made big progress.
Sir, on the
South Africa.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gaza
No,
is
no,
another-
not you.
Is a bit-
Right here.
Not you.
He's from South Africa. Go ahead, please.
What are you expecting on the ICJ case? Are you expecting South Africa to drop that? Is that what you're trying to
On
reason?
which case?
The ICJ case against Israel?
Criminal Justice.
International Criminal Court.
I don't expect anything, to be honest. I really don't. I don't know. It's
The United States doesn't care about the International Court of Justice, criminal justice. We don't.
tremendous anger. I don't expect anything.
We're not a party to it. We don't care about it.
And who knows what the ruling is going to mean? Yeah.
On that subject of Gaza, Mr. President, are you going to be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Israel's renewed offensive there? There's been a lot of concern from European countries
the Pope has expressed concern. Are you going to be asking Prime Minister Netanyahu to tone down the offensive in Gaza to let more aid in?
Was that a question or a statement? This guy's never changed.
Mr. President, this time, what will it take for you to be
Just move on.
no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for President.
Oh, that's your first mistake.
I'd rather have him answer. It will be.
My president will respond to you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on the around the quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it'll take him, President Trump, listening to their stories.
Oh boy.
That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that...
Oh, here it goes. Here we go.
We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn that?
You've never seen anything like this in the Oval Office before with a visiting foreign president.
It has to be responded to. Yeah, sure. We have. Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down.
President Trump's got receipts. First of all, you can't turn the lights down. It's the Oval Office. They don't have dimmers.
With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one.
Oh, you can turn the lights down, I guess.
You can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We are going to occupy land.
All right, right now you can't see it because the White House camera isn't on it, but there's a television there, and it's playing a documentary of all these African political groups and politicians basically calling for violence against the white African. This is the evidence that President Trump has. And this goes on. Now, what's great is as you listen to this rhetoric and how angry and upset it is, right? And whatever. The most entertaining part is to watch the president of South Africa squirm in his seat.
South Africa occupy land. That's who we are. Honorable member, can withdraw my membership from this useless parliament. Yes, honorable member. Must never be scared to kill. A revolution.
Never be scared to kill.
At some point, there must be killing because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
There we go.
To kill, Yamasa. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Kill the farmer. Literally calling for killing the farmers. But
People, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness. It's the farmer. The poor. The farmer.
no, everything's fine in South Africa. They're literally rallying to kill white farmers. That's what they're calling for. That's what President Trump is saying. This is what's happening. And the South African president is like, no, that's not happening. No, here's the videotape. I cannot see the future. We're going to hit them. We're going to get them, the white farmers. That's the translation underneath the TV if you didn't see it. With the machine gun. Oh, Jesus. And that's the military. We're going to shoot them. They're singing it like they're in church.
Who will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000.
All those white crosses.
White farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving; they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who's killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road, you have crosses.
He's basically calling the South African president a liar in the Oval Office in front of the world press. Is he wrong? That's a lot of white crosses.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is.
He doesn't even know where it is. It's a good thing he's paying attention.
I mean, it's in South Africa.
It's in South Africa. I mean, look at his posture. He's like, ah, crap. I'm in it now. And this isn't the end. First of all, I've never seen a president pull out a television like, here's the video evidence. Talk about transparency. You may not like it, but this is as transparent as diplomacy gets.
Will be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One, perhaps.
What are you talking about?
Mr. President,
The Pentagon's vote first.
What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking.
Hold on. I'm tired of hearing about the Qatari jet. We give everybody jets. We donate military jets to everybody around the world. We get one plane, and for some reason it's a problem. I know this is probably a rule or something. I honestly, do we really even care? Does anybody really even care? It's a friggin' airplane.
About a lot of other things. It's NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But you need to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing. They also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back. You ought to go back to your studio at NBC because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that.
Please, may we have a South African
His name
question,
is Peter
Mr.
something.
President
He's
Trump?
a terrible
If they're
reporter.
committing genocide, why invite them to the White House?
Quiet.
I'll be quiet.
Quiet.
Sure, that's my question now.
Let's go.
Thank you so much, President Trump. Annika Larson from ENCA in South Africa. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
hosting
much.
us. What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation
I don't
just
know.
seen on the screen?
I don't.
Yeah, people are still in denial. I didn't mean to pause it there, but your comment is right. You could have video evidence and you can have all this played in the Oval Office of all places, and people are going to still say, nah, it's not happening, right? Or nah, there isn't a problem. But there is a problem, right? And I know there's a history there in South Africa that probably a lot of us really, can't fathom because we haven't lived it. But still, the ends justify the means and all that crap. But I mean, you can't deny that it's not happening.
No. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death.
Oh,
People.
more receipts.
Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that there are
Pick
black
anyone.
people who are
White
dying
South
the most.
Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look, white South African couple say that they were attacked violently.
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
Well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place.
It's a huge problem.
These are all
Huge
white
problem.
farmers
It
that are
is.
being buried.
President Trump.
And he asks about a jet that was given. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
Why invite us? They are sitting and say, why invite the South Africans?
May I finish, please, President Trump? Mr. President
This
Trump,
is
may I
one
finish?
after another. This family was wiped out. I'm just looking.
I mean, I'm laughing because President Trump, he's funny. You know, when he calls up, what he's talking about is not funny.
Well, I think the videos are so. No. When you look at the videos, I mean, how does it get worse? And these are people that are officials, and they're saying that kill the white farmer and take their land. That's what it is. And I have other friends in South Africa. I have people that left.
Yeah.
One in particular that says you can't go there. He said they want to take your land.
Again, Joe, thank you for all your comments. I do love him. I sometimes I criticize some things that he does because just, you know, I'm my own person. There's some things that I say, okay, I don't like that. But, you know, I mean, you don't get, this is the most again, I'll say it again, the most transparent presidency you're ever going to see in the history of presidents. Just plain and simple. And that's just, for the country, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
Land, they take your land and they kill you. It's okay, and they say it's okay to do. Now, we're going to talk about it, but this is a tremendous, look, this is story recent. These are all people that recently got killed. Yeah. And I don't know how it can get any worse. These are and you know, the men that you saw, the people that you saw in that movie, those are officials. Those are people.
Yeah, they're politicians, they're officials.
They had one march, they had a dance in your parliament, whatever you may call it, legislature.
Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Let me clarify that because
yeah, try.
So the speeches that were being made, one, that is not government policy. We have a multi-party democracy in South Africa that allows people to express themselves.
Yeah, you're right, Joe. You're right, Joe.
To adhere to various policies, and in many cases, or in some cases, those policies do not go along with government policy. Our government policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
That didn't look like a very small minority party.
To take land.
No.
We do allow them to take land.
Nobody can take land.
And then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now
the farmers are black. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black. And the people that are being killed in large numbers, and you saw all those grave sites, and those are people that loved ones going, I guess, on a Sunday.
Look at Hegseth. He's like, I don't even want to be here. He doesn't even want to be in a room with this guy. Because Hegseth knows. He's got the intelligence.
They died violently. And, you know, I mean, we're here to talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here. But I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake, like NBC, which is fake news, totally one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible. But if they weren't fake news like this jerk.
Yeah, no, he doesn't want to, he doesn't.
If we had real reporters, they'd be covering it. But the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that. They don't want to talk about it, but now they have to talk about it. But they won't. This won't even be a subject. They'll have him talking about why did a country give a free, think of this, why did a country give an airplane to the United States Air Force? Okay, the United States, not to me, to the United States Air Force, so they could help us out because we need an Air Force One until that's Air Force One, it's being built, 2 of them being built. But Boeing's a little bit late, unfortunately. So why did they give us a plane to the United States Air Force?
By the way, the whole Air Force One thing, yeah, Boeing's late on building it. Air Force One is like 40 years old. Not that it's a horrible plane or thing, but I mean, it's 40 years old. So it probably is time, it's probably time for an upgrade. So if he flies around in this jet for a couple of years while Boeing builds Air Force One, who gives a shit?
That's what that idiot talks about, reviewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay. But coming back to this issue, which I really would like us to talk about, and talk about it very calmly. We were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to...
Again, invoking Nelson Mandela. It's just...
And this is precisely what we would also like to...
Look at Vance, he's smirking.
Trade matters, investment.
He's just like, listening to this bullshit.
That concern you,
he hands them all the articles.
Those are all deaths.
Yeah, in many ways, I mean, one should say you are a partner of South Africa, and you are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about. Let me just add quickly, the criminality that we are experiencing in our country needs quite a lot of technological capability. And in one of our areas in South Africa, we're using US technology, which is able to, in many ways, identify where shootings are happening and all that. And I'd like to talk about that because there is support that we can get from you as the United States to help us deal with all these acts of criminality. And that is what I believe partnership...
Trump is done. He's done. He's just like, okay.
So that we can
look at him. He's done. Trump is just done listening.
Challenges. So I'd like us to discuss it, and of course outside of the media, so that we sit down and have a really good discussion that will lead to good outcomes.
Are there any other further punitive measures that could be in place should you not be satisfied that South Africa is fixing some of the very bad things, in inverted commas, that you tweeted are happening?
Well, there are a lot of bad things happening in many countries, but this in particular has been very, very bad, and because of we're going to have the whole world watching in another short period of time because you have the G20.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. And it seems like, I want you to look good. I don't want you to look bad. But we have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to come into our country because they feel they're going to be killed and their land is going to be confiscated. And you do have laws that were passed that gives you the right to confiscate land for no payment. You can take away land for no payment.
I want to clarify that. Because we have a constitution. Our constitution guarantees and protects the sanctity of tenure of land ownership. And that constitution protects all South Africans with regard to land ownership. However, we do say, because we've got to deal with the past,
here it comes.
And as your government also has the right to expropriate land for public use.
And you're doing that.
And we've never really gotten underway with that, and we are going to be doing.
You're taking people's land away from them, and those people, in many cases, are being executed. They're being executed, and they happen to be white, and most of them happen to be farmers, and that's a tough situation. I don't know how you explain that. How do you explain that? They're taking people's land away. And in many cases, those people are being executed. And in many cases, it's not the government that's doing it. It's people that kill them and then take their land. And nothing happens to them. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. They're also going to Australia in a smaller number. But we have thousands of people that want to come into our country. And they're white farmers.
By the way, I don't think they mentioned this, but the South African president was just talking about, we have U.S. technology to help with criminals and identifying shooting. Elon Musk is standing right there, and his big thing is that there's a law in South Africa that businesses that are going to come into South Africa have to have a certain percentage of black ownership, which means Starlink can't go to South Africa. And that's what Elon has said. Now, whether you want to believe that or not, whether you think that's whatever your opinion is on that, that's what Elon Musk is saying. And of course, he's a South African citizen. So this guy's sitting here going, U.S. technology, we like technology. You have the technology guy sitting over there going, I want to bring Starlink to the country. But he can't, or he isn't able to at this point.
And they feel that they're going to die in South Africa, and it's a bad thing. Yeah,
Perez, what can South Africa do? What concessions would you like to see them make to improve relations with the United States? Then I have one more for President Ramaphosa afterwards.
Well, we just spoke about, I got them a very, very complex machine, 150 of them. And I was asked by the president if he could help, and I did that. And, I have great feeling for all countries. I deal with all countries. But I have a great feeling for South Africa because I have friends. I have a couple of friends, a few friends here today. But I have many friends from South Africa. But many of those friends are not, they can't go back. I have, Elon is from South Africa. I don't want to get Elon involved. That's all I have to do, get him into another thing. But Elon happens to be from South Africa. This is what Elon wanted. He actually came here on a different subject, sending rockets to Mars, okay? Yes. He likes that better. He likes that subject better. That's right. But Elon is from South Africa, and I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't think it's fair to him. That's right. But I will say that people are fleeing South Africa for their own safety. Their land is being confiscated, and in many cases they're being killed. And that scene of, you see how many crosses they have. Those crosses, that's a dead person in every one of them. And those trucks or cars are paying their respects to all of those dead people on a Sunday morning. That's a rough thing to explain away. And the problem we have, and the way, a correct and a fair media exposes things. But we have a very corrupt media. They won't even report this. If this were the other way around, it would be the biggest story. Now, I will say apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest story. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. What's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we're being inundated with...
The American president just basically called it apartheid, right? Reverse apartheid.
It's a big problem. Marco
That's a
Rubio
problem. That's a problem for South Africa.
The numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon. Yes, please.
I was going to say,
Brian,
if I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
Good question.
My Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you've just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
And Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural safety problem in South Africa, and I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues at police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to stop making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime.
Basically, he's saying, no, the president is right. It's happening. There's farm attacks.
Disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers. I also want to just say this, that the two individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Mkhonto Wesizwe under Mr. Zuma and the economic freedom fighters under Mr. Malema. Now, the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have
Those rallies look like they had a lot of power. I mean, when you got that many people at a rally.
After 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our Parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world so that we can strengthen our hand, grow our economy, and shut the door forever.
Basically, the Minister of Agriculture just said, yeah, there is the problem. There is a problem. Even though the South African president was like, no, there's not a problem. I've never seen that before. But he's saying there is a problem. So at least you got one person in the room saying, yeah, there's a problem.
As my own party, we are completely opposed to that. We, in 1955, adopted a document which said South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
But why wouldn't you arrest that man? That man said, kill the white farmers.
Great question.
Kill the white farmers. And then he danced, and he's dancing, and it's kill the white farmers. I think, I'm not sure, but I think if somebody got up in Parliament and started saying, kill a certain group of people, he would be arrested very quickly. That man is going all over South Africa, and that's not a small party. That was a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and I hardly saw an empty seat. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of representation. And those crosses, we have dead white people, dead white farmers, mostly. And you take a look at Australia. They're being inundated, and we're being inundated with people that want to get out. And their farm is valueless. It's valueless.
Yeah.
And they just want to get out with their life. And
but it's a great question. He didn't answer. Why wouldn't you
had a real news or real press
arrest that guy? He's calling for violence against the people.
Because they're all guys like that idiot. But if we had a real press,
he's still picking on the reporter.
And the beauty of exposing it is it's like a cleansing action. When it gets exposed, it'll get fixed. That's when it'll get fixed. But people don't talk about it. And I'll tell you who's talking about the thousands of people that are fleeing South Africa right now.
We discussed USAID and the devastating impact the cuts are having across the African continent.
Yeah, well, it's devastating, and hopefully a lot of people are going to start spending a lot of money. And I've talked to other nations. We want them to chip in and spend money too. And we've spent a lot, and it's a tremendous problem going on in many countries. A lot of problems going on. The United States always gets the request for money. Nobody else helps, as you know. Europe doesn't help. Europe hasn't given anything.
It's true.
All they do is sue our companies. You know, they sue Apple, and they sue all of our companies.
That's true.
Apple had to pay $17
I worked for Apple. It was a lawsuit all the time, every time I was dealing with something in Europe.
But we're going to always be there to help.
It's shown rightly South African broadcasting. If this Afrikaner resettlement issue is resolved, you're going to go into a room after this, you guys are going to talk. If it is resolved, what is the potential for the future-looking relationship?
It's fantastic. It's got to be resolved. It should be resolved. It's a little bit bad when you see a stadium with 100,000 people in it, because that means it's more than just a little movement. It's a pretty big movement in South Africa. So it has to be resolved. It'll be the end of the country if it's not resolved.
But is there potential for the relationship moving forward?
I hope so. That's why I'm here. I mean, I'm not here for my health. I'm here. No, I'd like to see. I have friends. I can tell you, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, they feel so strongly they wanted to be here on behalf of South Africa, not on behalf of me. And, they said, can we be here for this? Because they love the country. Ernie, do you guys want to say a couple of words or anything? I hate to put you in this. This is tougher than sinking a 3-footer. They have, and they've sank many 3-footers.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks for the honor of being here. We've known each other a long time. We have spoken. We're proud South Africans. I still have my South African passport. We travel with this passport, and I got my visa here. So, but we want to see things get better in our home country. And that's the bottom line. it's been 35 years since the transition.
Mhm.
President Ramaphosa was right in the middle of the transition time in 1990 and before that. So it's been 35 years of ANC government. And I know there's a lot of anger, through the transition. There was also a lot of stuff happening in the apartheid days. We grew up in the apartheid era. But I don't think two wrongs makes a right.
Oof, there you go.
President Mandela, when he came out of prison for all that time, didn't come out with hatred.
No, he did not.
And really unified our nation through sport. We won the Rugby World Cup in the '95.
4 times.
We won the African Nations Cup, soccer. We won some majors as golfers and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is, this has been a long time coming. That's why we really wanted to meet you, meet the administration, and see our way forward, because we still want to see our country flourish. We've got some great things going on. Business is getting involved with government. Farmers are getting involved in local municipalities, trying to rebuild some of the infrastructure that's been decaying for a long time. So there's a lot of coexistence going on and help from a lot of areas. But I feel we need the US to push this thing through. We've got a great ally if we can have the US. It's always been an ally of South Africa for a very long time. Even in the days of the war, up in Angola, you guys helped us. So very important for us to have your support and get the change we need.
When did you do that well?
That was a very political answer.
He might have done that even better than he plays golf, which is almost impossible. Johan, please.
Mr. President, if you had to wind all of those tapes properly, you will see I'm the biggest target of that rabble-rouser. Number one for over 10 years, Mr. Malema. In fact, the first time I met him, he was in the youth league with that gentleman, and look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board.
Mm-hmm.
We need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones.
Yep.
I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US basics, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board. Ernie is right now building a house in George. I'm building 3 cottages for my grandchildren on a farm outside Graaff-Reinet. I often go to bed without locking the door. And we have a serious problem with illegal aliens who stream across the border. And if you really look at our statistics, a lot of these murders, firstly it's unemployment and illegal aliens. And then I met
speaking his language
President Vards many years ago, the Charlie Rose show. My wife loved his book. And she reminded me this morning that you emphasized the devastation that occurs when big companies leave towns and cities, and there's a culture of dependency that develops. I remember you discussing it. Now that's our problem. If we don't get our economy to grow, the culture of dependency and the lawlessness will increase. I've again been against apartheid all my life, and I'm their #1 target. Please just Google my name, Malema. You'll see it, sir. He marched on the farm.
But the crime is bad.
The crime is terrible, sir, but...
It is. South Africa crime is terrible.
To it, but he runs the Western Cape, where I live. And the biggest murder rate is in the Cape Flats. Gangs. We've got gang warfare. Like your M33 or whatever, these guys. We've got the equivalents there. But we need your help, sir. And we need Elon technology.
Well, one of the real areas of support is really in investments. We've got to grow our economy, because through growing the economy, we're then able to create more jobs. Because crime really thrives where there is inequality and unemployment. And that is one of the reasons that is...
We all know this, but thank you, President South Africa, for telling us that. We all know this already.
Trade relations, so that we can preserve the number of jobs that your companies have created in South Africa. By virtue of what we export to you, we are able to create up to 500,000 jobs in the auto industry, in the agricultural industry, and a number of other industries, mining, where we export things to you. And we also know that as South African companies invest here, you are also able to create jobs. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. So our main real reason for being here is to foster trade and investment, so that we are able to grow our economy with your support, and so that we are also able to address all these societal problems, because criminality thrives when people are unemployed, when they have no other hope to eke out a living. So that is what we need to resolve, and your support, your partnership with us is what is really going to give us a strong capability to move forward.
Ricky, excuse me, do you have anything to say? I mean, I don't want to leave you out. You know, the guy won 3 or 4 majors. 3 or 4.
Another golfer from South Africa.
That's a lot. By the way, 2's a lot. A lot of tournaments you won too. Do you have anything to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. President Ramaphosa. I grew up in an area in South Africa that is a farmland area, Polokwane. And there is some issues up there. Obviously, my dad was a property developer as well as a part-time farmer. And yeah, some of these buddy farmers got killed. The farm is still going. My brothers run it. But it's a constant battle with farms they're trying to burn the farms down to chase you away. So it is a concern to try and make a living as a farmer. And at the end,
Oh no, you missed that. That's
so we need to
it was amazing.
He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't even want to do what you're doing.
It is uncomfortable, but it was amazing.
It's a struggle.
Yeah, and food and fresh water is the most important thing in life. Without those 2 things, we can't survive.
How is the water there?
The water is great. Obviously, all the water comes out of the borehole, out of ground for us down there. But yeah, it is a battle to get the water out sometimes when all the equipment gets stolen all the time that you're trying to get the
So
water
does
out.
your family and your brother, do they feel safe on the farm?
They live behind electric fences, try and be at night safe. But it is constant whenever you leave that something could happen. And
there's nowhere to live.
Both of them has been attacked in their houses. My mom's been attacked in her house when she was 80.
Ooh. So his parents have been attacked in their house. So there's a crime issue. Where's Nelson Mandela? Look, Nelson Mandela is gone. You ain't getting him back. You're never going to get another Nelson Mandela. So,
President Trump, I brought along the president of the largest trade union in our country, Ziggy Solosi, because she leads many workers, more than 1 million, 2 million workers. and maybe we should give her a chance to say something, because she's come all the way to join us.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Trump,
Thank you.
for having us, and President for extending the invitation to us as organized labor. And I must say that we are here to support the initiative that has been made by our government with business, of course, as organized labor. We've been coming to Washington on the AGOA trade relations in the previous regime, and I think at the center of it all, for me, it is exactly what Mr. Rupert has said, the importance of us growing the economy. We have always emphasized when we were here and kept on coming and negotiating on AGOA that the 600 US companies that are based in South Africa, as you said, President Ramaphosa, 500,000 jobs will be wiped out. We need more foreign direct investment in our country. We are not just talking about those that will lose employment, but we are talking about over 40% of people that are unemployed, that have no hope of ever finding a job. And we think that, correctly, as they have said, that we need
As she continues to talk about jobs. You know, some people, I know some people in the news, they saw this as an embarrassment.
We also need
Listen,
and I would have loved,
again, like I said, it's transparent as hell. This is what he believes. This is the president.
works in South Africa.
He's got receipts, and he's like, I want answers. And for me, it was just,
I think was
it was entertaining.
There was
And
a handover of
yeah, it was cringy and uncomfortable at times.
farmers were saying,
But yeah, that's what it is.
we are donating the land,
And
but also there's a willing
the South African president needs to answer for some things, especially if we're going to be investing money in his country. I think the complete embarrassment is that when we don't address these things open and in public, if there is an issue, that's what's embarrassing to me, is that when we don't even talk about these things. That's what we should be embarrassed
the
about.
government is even paying more
We may not like that,
in buying the land than
but for me,
buying
that's the
land.
embarrassment, is when we ignore it.
And I think those
When we
are
don't
the
speak our minds or our opinions or our values.
We must say that we need to address, of course, but also the importance of agriculture linked to AGOA. People rely on it, and I think, as Retief have said, for survival and living. But lastly, for me, President, is also the issue of the crime statistics. There is no doubt about it that we are a violent nation, for a number of reasons, and we're not condoning anything. But also, if you go into the rural areas where black majority are, you would see women, elderly, being raped, being killed, being murdered, and these are black elderly women that would be found throat slits, raped multiple times, and all of that.
Look at the South African president.
In South Africa, it is not necessarily about race, but it is about crime. And we think that we are here to say, how do we, both nations, work together to reset, to really talk about investment, but also help us in how we can have the technology and everything that is needed, President, to really address the levels of crime that we have in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. President Trump, genocide is a very strong word. I'm wondering if you've made up your mind as to whether you believe genocide is occurring in South Africa, or you still have doubts. And if you have made up your mind, why invite President Ramaphosa here today for this conversation?
Well, I haven't made up my mind. I hate to see it from the standpoint of South Africa, but also, I'm trying to save lives. I'm working with Russia and Ukraine. I don't have to do that. It's not our war. It was started by other people. It was helped along by our past administration, and it would have never happened if I were president. But I'm trying to save lives, no matter where. Rwanda, I have nothing to do with Rwanda and the Congo, but I felt I had a very talented person in this administration, and I sent him there, and he did an unbelievable job, I think. I mean, we're going to find out, but he's done the hardest part of the job. It should happen. If I can save lives, I want to save the lives. If it's in Africa, that's great. If it's in Europe, if it's wherever it may be. And it's a very small investment to do, believe me, compared to what the consequences are. So I hope we can do something. Look, I have so many friends. These two men, I have great admiration for them because I know what they do for a living. And that's a very hard living. going from city to city, from country to country, and hitting a ball 350 yards like they do, and
Better than you and I.
getting the ball in the hole. It's a very tough, with lots of people watching, right?
Yes,
That's a very tough living. You know, they're champions. I respect champions, and I respect very much. And I think the country is very lucky. They really wanted to be here. That's true. They could be elsewhere. They could be on a beautiful fairway someplace, and they wanted to be here. So.
My name is Yanda Mhobo from Newsroom Africa in South Africa. How important is it for the United States to be at our G20 summit in November, given the relationship between our two countries? You've just heard what has been said to you just now. Are you coming, and are you preparing to come?
So without the United States, the G20, just like the G7, used to be the G8, but brilliantly they threw Russia out. Would have been a lot better if Russia was in. You know, a lot of people would say, oh, that's not it. Because if Russia was in, you probably wouldn't have this war. And if you had a different president, you wouldn't have the war either. But we have a G7. It's important that the United States is at both of them. I think without the United States, it's I really believe it's not very important. It's not the same meaning.
It's not wrong.
As I said to President Trump, the U.S. really originated the G20, and it's important that the United States continues to play a key role in the G20. And
The largest economy in the world by far. I mean, yeah, we have a key role with. That's what the G7, the largest economies in the world. So, without the United States, what's the point, right?
For that reason, I expect the United States to continue playing the leadership role in the G20 together with other countries. And I've said when I initially spoke to President Trump on the phone, I want him to come to South Africa for a state visit, and I also want him to come and participate in the G20. And I want to gladly hand over to President Trump to take the leadership of the G20 forward in November.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What is it going to take to convince you?
You don't want to leave.
I want to leave.
I like you so
Hegseth is done. Hegseth just wants to get back to the Pentagon. All right. Well, that was today. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that would look at that and say, wow, that was, I got a comment here that was embarrassing. Is it? I think it's embarrassing when we decide not to talk about things or we keep things away from the American public. If there's an issue that our president thinks is important, you might not think it's important. You might think it's not the right thing. But he's going to bring it up and he's going to have receipts. Again, I've never seen a presentation like that in the Oval Office. I think it was astounding to see it because you don't get to see stuff like that. You don't get to see the diplomacy like that because that's what diplomacy is behind closed doors. Usually we only get to see the stuff that's, ready for prime time and all washed and all that and all proper. And everybody's like, oh, here's what you say and here's how things go. Again, love him, hate him. That's fine. That's your opinion. That's our president. And he has a problem. And the South African president kind of tried to contradict him. And he said, here are my receipts, and I want an answer. Isn't that what he's supposed to do if he's got an issue? I don't know. And again, I'm not a zealot. I tell you all the time, I'm not a zealot. I'm not somebody who is going to always say everything he does is right. I argued, I think a couple of days ago, I got a lot of flack from a lot of conservatives because I argued against his birthright citizenship executive order. And I've been going through the tax bill and there's some things in that tax bill. I'm like, that's not right. And I don't agree with that. But again, that's politics. That's living in America. We can have differences. We don't need to all be zealots. If you're a Republican, it doesn't necessarily mean you agree with everything the Republican Party says. Same thing, It's kind of why I left the Democratic Party. I made a video about that because as a Democrat, if you disagree with one part of the platform, you're ostracized. You're not a real Democrat. And, again, that's not the way it should be. You should be able to have dissent and discussion and things like that. But if there are things going on in South Africa and it's a place that we have 600 of U.S. companies and things are happening and people are getting hurt, does it really matter what color of skin there are? Let's discuss it. It is a crime-ridden country. It has had a horrible, horrible go of it. And I don't know if it's going to be able to get back to where it needs to get back to without U.S. help. I'm certainly not getting any help from anywhere else. We're going to have the G20 there in November. That's going to be amazing to see all those countries. They're going to have to really figure out the security, because there are a lot of gangs. There's a lot of war. There's a lot of, you saw the video. There's a lot of tension in that country. And it does stem from the apartheid. It's generational tension. And there's a lot of hate and anger. And there's a lot of just vitriol that just is just of the utmost violent nature. And does President Trump, as the president of the United States, have a right to call that out? Sure he does. Isn't that U.S. leadership? If it was the other way around, we'd call it out, right? Because that's U.S. leadership. We may not always like the way he does it. Sometimes you enjoy, sometimes you don't want to know how the sausage is being made. Well, there you go. You just saw it. And, but that's his thing. That was today. It literally is the most amazing Oval Office press conference I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot. I've been paying attention to politics since I was a young kid because I always loved it. Almost 50 years. I've never seen a television brought in. I've never seen that. Never seen anything like that. So there you go. Today I was going to talk a lot about the Republican tax bill because there's a lot of things in there, and I might just save this to Friday. I did a lot of research. The whole idea that President Trump just says there's no Medicare cuts. Well, actually, truth is in the eye of the beholder. I think when you hear that from President Trump, you have to kind of understand that there's no cuts to Medicare in terms of you're a U.S. citizen. And I think that's where you have to go with. But I went through a lot of the stuff. A lot of the stuff makes sense. A lot of stuff I'm kind of like questioning. A lot of stuff is Biden era stuff that they're cutting out. So I'm going to save that for Friday. I know taxes are not the sexiest thing in the world to talk about, but it's a 1,000-page tax bill. So I was going to talk about that, but I'm going to save on that because I thought this was more important. I think when you see international diplomacy, you see our president work. And again, entertaining as hell. Agree with everything that went on in that room or not? Entertaining as hell. I mean, Biden couldn't get me that engaged in politics. Whatever he was having, it's just like you couldn't listen to the guy for more than 5 minutes. And by the way, there's the big story going on right now is the whole idea of the media and Biden, the cover up. Listen, I haven't covered that. You know why? Because we were all smart enough to know that the media was lying to us. We could all see the poor guy. My take on it is this. I feel bad for President Biden in a way. I actually thought about it this morning. I really feel bad for him. The guy just got diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer, which is something like stage 8, stage 9, whatever late stage he's in. Which, let's really think about that. You don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and you're in late stage prostate cancer, right? Especially if the president of the United States and you're getting all these medical checks and people, right? This guy was suffering. Like, he couldn't have gone through any type of chemotherapy or anything like that while he was president. Why? You would have noticed that right away. In my mind, I'm thinking, did they know that he had prostate cancer? And did they just say to themselves, we're not going to tell him? Or we're not going to give him the treatment because then the rest of the world will know he's sick? Like, that's a scenario that kind of came up in my head. Did they purposely put this guy through a living hell? Isn't that like elder abuse or something like that? I mean, think about it. You just don't wake up one day and you have aggressive prostate cancer. I know for a fact. I have experience, right? I have family experience in this. It just doesn't pop up and you're in that kind of late stage. And you've been getting medical diagnoses and medical treatments and getting medical checkups all for the last 4 or 5 years of your life. Someone knew. They knew. They had to have known. They had to have known because it's part of the regular, and of course they don't release that information. Did these people honestly say to themselves, hey, we want to stay in power, so we're not going to let this guy get the treatment that might save his life so he doesn't get to that late stage? So I haven't really covered it that big of a deal. I'm kind of preparing a video for, I did a video why I left the Democratic Party. I was a longtime Democrat and I was a moderate, but I left it eventually. Back in around 2008, 2009, I started to leave and wander away from the Democratic Party, become more of a Republican, and finally registered, lived in Texas. Living in Texas, it's easy to become a Republican. It's like you cross the border, you get all conservative. It's kind of fun. Anyways, So I did a video why I left the Democratic Party. I'm preparing a video as to why I think the Democratic Party is ripe for split, and why I think that if, in our nation's history, we've had political parties disappear, split into other factions, and then one grows and one dies. And I think we're entering a time when the Democratic Party, as I look back at it and the history of it and what's gone on, it's ripe for a split. It's ripe for, a third party to come about. And I don't mean like a weird little fringe third party. I mean an actual third party that becomes a viable one that actually replaces the traditional the Democratic Party that we have now. I just can see that happening, and I've seen it through history. And, those who do not remember their history are doomed to repeat it, and it's sort of repeating itself. You've seen it. So again, you've seen it throughout history in the United States, the political parties. But again, I go back to Joe Biden. I actually feel bad for the guy. I actually feel bad for the guy because I think that they knew that he was sick. Again, I'm just speculating, but I mean, you kind of put the pieces together. Did they actually keep him? Because when you get chemotherapy, you're going to see the effects on somebody who's getting chemotherapy or some sort of cancer treatment, right? Radiation, whatever. Did they just not allow that to happen so he could remain president during those times and not have to, take the 25th or something like that, or whatever? Because you just don't get to that, and now he's suffering, and I don't know I don't know how you recover. Like when you actually sit down and think about it as a normal common sense American, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, when you sit down and think about that, it's kind of gross, right? And we've had presidents that were sick or had issues. I mean, FDR was in a wheelchair. I mewe know that. Kennedy had so many back problems. You didn't know when he was on a painkiller or not. Multiple presidents have multiple health problems, but in this case, I mean, when you're dealing with something like that at that late stage in your age, I don't know, but it's something we'll talk about. We'll continue to talk about. I just didn't want to touch about it too much right now, but that was an entertaining morning, and I really appreciate everybody joining me for it. And again, just a little side note. I did start a second channel. It's just all it is called the Daily Gringo instead of the Reluctant Gringo. By the way, if you're new to this channel and you don't know why I call myself the Gringo, I live in Mexico. I've been married to a wonderful woman for 25 years who's an American citizen now, but we decided we're going to live in Mexico for a few years and see how that pans out and have some fun. And everybody down here calls me Gringo, and people are like, "That's racist." I'm like, no, it's not racist. Do you know what Gringo means? It just means foreigner. That's all. And no one says it to me in a mean way. By the way, someone said to me, it must be hell living in a foreign country because President Trump makes you... No. People down here are awesome. They really are. Normal, everyday Mexican citizens are great. By the way, if you want to know about illegal immigration, come down to Mexico. Normal, everyday Mexican citizens have to deal with You think about it. If you're in the United States and you see all this illegal immigration coming over the border, right? Think about it. All that illegal immigration has to pass through somewhere, from wherever it's coming from, China up through South America. They all pass through Mexico. They're dealing with the same issues here with illegal immigration as we are up there. It's just they're dealing it in a different way. So a lot of Mexican citizens were very happy when President Trump got. I was talking to a lot of Mexican citizens during the election. They're like, they wanted President Trump because they're like, this is ridiculous. We're inundated. We're inundated with people from all sorts of other countries, including, Asia and things like that. So it is interesting. So this idea that somebody was saying to me, it must be hell living in Mexico because they hate Americans. No, they don't. They love me. They call me Gringo and they laugh about it. They're just fun. I'm a Gringo. I'm a Gringo. I don't care. Call me Gringo. So that's why I call myself Gringo. But yeah, so if you're new to the channel, I did start another channel called The Daily Gringo. All it is when I do a live stream, in case you missed a live stream, I cut it up, edit it, kind of take out the stuff that needs to take out if I cough or something like that, and I posted this. So you go ahead and check that out too as well. But I do appreciate everybody that's checked in here with me today. I think it's been awesome. It's always great when President Trump takes to the mic and takes to the camera. And I try to offer politics and a political view living outside the country and seeing the news from outside the country. It's really interesting because I'll hear things on the news in the United States and I'm like, that's not true. And especially if they talk about things like here in Mexico, I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. There's so much that I hear. I'm like, that's not true. That's bullshit. That's either A, not happening, or B, it's a total falsehood. And I talk a lot about Mexico-U.S. relations a lot. And I talk about it in terms of, there's the government of Mexico right now. Oh, it's a good ring too. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I talk about, the current government of Mexico, to me, is very incompetent. Right now, we have the first female president ever in Mexico. She is a complete socialist. Right now, my wife just came back from Mexico City, and she was telling me that the entire Zocalo, which is if you ever seen a picture of where the presidential palace is, the giant flag, all that, this giant open square, it's a beautiful place to visit. You can't walk down any of the streets, and the Zocalo is completely taken up, and it's tent after tent after tent after tent. All the teachers are on strike. Why are they on strike? Because the president of Mexico promised them a certain thing, which is to lower the retirement age to something reasonable, like 62. And if they voted for it, they voted for it. Instead, she raised it to 68. So all these teachers have to wait until they're 68 years old to retire, which, no offense, that's friggin' a long time to wait to retire if you're a teacher. So it's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on down here and how it relates. And, President Trump talks about illegal immigration. And a lot of stuff he has to say is true because I've seen it. He talks about human trafficking. I've seen it. I remember I was living in the smallest town of the smallest state of this country because we moved around a little bit. And I went to the bus station because the buses here are awesome, by the way. They're cheap and they're great and they're very actually luxurious. They're actually a great way to travel from one town to another if you want to go. But anyways, so I walk into this bus station, the only bus station in the smallest town of the smallest state of this country. And there's a billboard there, like one of those, like you see in a high school. It's got the glass case. You can kind of put the bulletins in there. It's about 6 feet by 6 feet. And it's completely filled. I got no bullshit, no lie. Completely filled with missing flyers. Missing this child, missing that daughter, missing this baby, missing this teenager, missing this woman, missing this young man. And it was filled. And not only was it filled, but they were 6 or 7 deep. So like the older ones from years ago, which they, and those are all victims of human trafficking. Those are all victims of the cartels and what goes on down here because it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And that's just from the smallest town of the smallest state. And in that same town where I was living, I woke up one morning and said, I'm going to take a walk down the main road. And it's a regular town. It's not like some dirt road or something. It's a regular town. I want you to kind of picture that. Very populous for a smaller town. So I'm walking down and I start to see all these people just crowding the main road. Like a car can't get through. All these people. Then I see all these police. All these federal police officers, federal Mexican police officers. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like the only, and of course I stick out. I'm a 6'1", 250-pound bald white dude. So I stick out in a little Mexican town, right? So I'm thinking, should I walk? Should I keep walking? But I keep walking. I'm thinking, well, I didn't do nothing wrong, right? They're not there for me. And so I start walking and I'm going through the crowd and literally the police, they're carrying machine guns, full riot gear. I mean, that's how the police walk around. It's just how they have to walk around. And then I realize this is a school. It's a public school. And I'm thinking about what the hell's going on? It's because they're so concerned with their children being taken and sold into human trafficking and slavery that the parents bring their children to the school. There are 20 to 30 armed to the teeth police officers there. There's one entrance to the school. In the school, when you look on the outside, it looks like a freaking fort. It looks like a prison almost. You ain't getting in there. Concrete and steel and barbed wire and spikes. And they escort the kids inside. They close the doors. There ain't no way in other than that. And at the end of the day, when the kids are getting taken out or being released, it's the same thing. So what President Trump talks about human trafficking, he talks about the illegal immigration and the effects of that stuff. It's real because I've seen it. I've seen the effects. I've seen how scary it can be. And it's how traumatizing it can be. There was another story that my wife was telling me because she just, like I said, came back from Mexico City. And the subways there are very, very crowded. I mean, it's wall-to-wall sardine cans. Well, there's this new warning that if you're a young girl or a young woman and you get on the subway, if you feel something like a pinch, be very aware. What the new thing is that they're sticking them with a hypodermic needle, injecting them with something that doesn't put them out right away, makes them woozy. So then as they go, oh, wow, I felt that. And they start to walk and they get off the subway and they walk and they said, I got to sit down. I'm feeling tired. They start to pass out. Well, they've been getting followed. And this has happened. This has been reported over and over and over and over again. And so it's a very real thing, people being taken. And so when you talk about securing that southern border, it's not just that you're protecting the country of the United States. Realize that he's trying to tamp down on human trafficking, which is actually protecting more than just the people of the United States. It's an attempt to protect all those kids. It's an attempt to protect all these women, all these young men from being taken and having the hellish life that you could imagine. So, you know, you would think that as someone who lives south of the border that I would have the exact opposite view of illegal immigration. No, you have to understand what he's doing is going to have an impact positively on these other countries because it's going to slow down that process. It's going to slow down that whole need. You know, it's just a fight that's being fought. So it's a very real thing. So if you don't think it's a very real thing, you're wrong. You're just plain wrong. It's not an argument. It's just you're plain wrong. And you can see it every day, and it marks a lot of this country, and it's a trauma for this country. It really is. It's just you have to be aware. Even so, now that the subways down here, especially in Mexico City, if you go on a subway now, where I live, if you go on a bus, metro bus. So if you go down to the subway in Mexico City, you're going to walk in, you're going to get to the platform, and you say, okay, I'm waiting for the subway. Well, if you turn to the right a little bit, you'll see this plastic barricade, a little opening, and then you'll see a very heavily armed police officer or National Guardsman. And the reason why they're there is because only women and children are allowed past that plastic or that barricade, because the first 2 or 3 cars of each subway is designated only for women and children to protect them against assault and kidnapping. That's how bad it is. They actually had to reform. And again, here there are buses. Every bus station or every bus stop you go to has a officer at it or an official watching. And a bus will pull up, and if it's got a little pink thing around the door, it means you're, as a guy, I didn't know this. I actually walked on. I'm like, oh, I'm just taking up. I wasn't with my wife. I'm just thinking, I know what I'm doing. I didn't really read much Spanish at the time, and I walk onto this bus, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, am I the only guy? And then all of a sudden I get grabbed from that officer, pulls me out. You ain't supposed to be on this bus. I'm a guy. It's a very real thing. So when we talk about illegal immigration, again, later in the week and next week, just keep in mind that, again, the more that the United States can do to curb that, and the more that the United States can do to battle those type of forces, the more lives you're saving in other places, even more than your own country, because it starts somewhere else. Human trafficking doesn't usually begin in the United States. Sometimes ends there, but it begins in other places. So there's an appreciation down here for President Trump that you wouldn't hear about on mainstream news. You'd think you'd hear about it on, like, you watch Univision, which is a very liberal television show down here, television channel, and sometimes they have their reporters on like Jorge Garcia on CNN, and he's bad mouthing Trump. You've seen him. He's like the Spanish version of Anderson Cooper, and he bad mouths Trump this, Trump that, right? But that's just the way the press is down here, the way they are up there, right? But normal, everyday people down here really appreciate those efforts. I mean, you think about it. I mean, he designated cartels terrorist organizations since the first time that anybody's ever done that as a U.S. president. If you talk to anybody down here, yeah, that's exactly what they are. That's exactly what they are. hundreds of thousands of people over the years have just disappeared, found in mass graves. I mean, you have groups of mothers in this country. There are actual groups of mothers. Their only sole purpose in life right now is trying to find out where the mass graves are, where their children are, because of these terrorist organizations. Students, college students, just like there was another famous case a couple of years ago, and it's happened it's happened multiple times. Dozens of just college students that were protesting or had a problem, or got involved in the wrong thing, or whatever happened, disappeared. It happens. It happens. So, again, I guess that's why I talk about illegal immigration so much, and I guess that's why I cover Trump so much, is because he doesn't only have an impact on what he's doing in the United States, it's an impact on what he's doing in other countries. And a lot of times it's being, again, I'll tell you, there's things that he does, and you'll see the videos on my channel, things I don't agree with. I'm my own person. I try to think, right? There are things that I think, I go, I don't agree with that. But for the most part, what he's trying to do internationally, you have to appreciate. So, but anyways, but there you go. So, all right. But with that, this has been one of the best live streams I've ever had. And I do appreciate it. I've only been doing this for about a year and a half. The rest of the channel, I also, by the way, I love politics. I have a master's in political science. And I'm a teacher. I was a former teacher as well. So if you're wondering what my bona fides are to talk about this stuff, those are my bona fides. But I also love pop culture. So at night, sometimes you'll see us jump on. We'll be streaming video games, me and my son down here, and we'll be talking about comic books. I put up comic book videos and things like that. So I love politics and I love pop culture, and I especially love when they come together. And President Trump's the ultimate example of pop culture and politics coming together. So that's a lot of fun. But with that, been one of the most successful streams I've ever had. I really appreciate you all. If you like what I have to say, if you don't like what I have to say, I always like to hear what you have to say. Leave it in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, that's okay. I'm a former teacher. I used to have people disagree with me all the time. So I got no problem with that. So with that, if you want to leave a like, subscribe, comment, I really do appreciate it. I'm going to sign off for right now and get to work on some other evergreen videos. And I will be back. I do this on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays around noontime here. So around 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I go live and talk about politics. So with that, I'm still your reluctant gringo. Thank you again to everybody from south of the border. Salut, a huevo, and hopefully everybody has a great, great day. I'm out of here.